in the city that I'm from, in the city that Lacey's from, we got a documentary, a gang documentary, chat. This top one right here. Airbnb Traphouse Massacre. The shockingly brutal underworld of Lake Erie, the Four Nation Gang. This got 10K views and was posted 6 days ago. I need to see this. So this is what happened inside my city, bro.
Investigators say 22 of the suspects are part of an Erie gang.
So, I will give a little background story. This gang here, like this was like summer of 2023, I believe. Dude, the feds did a sweep, bro. They had SWAT all over the city, all that shit. They did a fucking sweep. Nigga, that shit was crazy, bruh. So now I'm trying to see like the more inside of like what happened and shit.
Known as Four Nation.
This gang has plagued the east side of Erie for a decade by committing acts of violence and distributing fentanyl, cocaine, methamphetamine, and other illegal drugs. But no more.
According to the 30-count indictment, members of Four Nation would obtain drugs from California, Arizona,
bro.
and Mexico, and then redistribute them throughout the tri-state area.
Hold the fuck on, bro. This is what was going. Whoa. Whoa. Huh? Run that back.
Arizona and Mexico.
I gotta go back one.
Members of Four Nation would obtain drugs from California, Arizona, and Mexico, and then redistribute them throughout the tri-state area. Investigators say the gang would guard their territory.
That quick stop food store used to live right up the street from it. That is on 18th, West 18th. I used to live on West 21st and like, what is that side street? Cherry. Yeah. That corner, yeah, I never went to that corner store. The only time I went to that corner store is when I was driving by. I was driving in that area, and a fucking cop on a bike started following me, so I pulled over in that parking lot in the corner store. Still got hit with a fucking ticket. Fucking dickhead ass cops, bro. Fuck them.
Through shootings and assaults.
On the evening of January 27, 2022, a drug-related homicide took place on 3904 McClelland Avenue in Erie, Pennsylvania. Sitting on the serene, large waters of Lake Erie is one of the United States' smaller metropolitan areas. Erie, Pennsylvania, a city home to less than 100,000 residents in a greater metropolitan area of less than 200,000.
That area that it just showed I used to be in when I was younger, they call it the Holly.
Less than 100,000 residents in a
my Erie folks that tap into this
greater
shit.
Metropolitan area of less than 200.
Like these brown brick apartments right here is called the Holly. That whole neighborhood area is called the Holly.
100,000. Prior to the 1980s, like most cities on Lake Erie, it was home to a burgeoning industry of labor and manufacturing that employed much of the town in one way or another and kept it alive and safe. But nothing good lasts forever. Since that time, Erie has become one of the nation's smallest, poorest, and most dangerous cities, boasting a poverty rate of almost double the national average and the proud home of the country's poorest zip code. As a result, there is not much room.
Facts, chat. You search up on Google right now. What is the poorest zip code in the United States? Right here. The poorest zip code in the United States is 16501 in Erie, Pennsylvania. Nigga, that is where I'm from, chat. Literally, my zip code is 16502. So like 16501, that's like, I don't know. I don't know how the zip codes work, but yeah, it's basically same area, city of Erie. Crazy, right? Chat. Crazy, right? It's crazy to like think about though. It's like, bro, I'm in this bitch and it's one of the poorest zip codes in the fucking US.
To grow in Erie. That is the environment that members of the Four Nation gang found themselves in, a disorganized network of crack, meth, and fent dealers from the city's east side. In recent years, the gang had conspired to deal drugs and kill members of a west side Erie gang named 1800. The feud had led to the formation of its own hand sign, 4 fingers wrapped around a thumb that was code for cracking 4. The homicide at 3904 wasn't an ordinary scene in the Erie Underworld. That afternoon, 5 members of Four Nation, Derek Wright, Julia D. Gartner, Marcia S. Jones, Shannon Crosby, and Jamie D. Smith planned to ransack a rental home that housed 4 Arizona drug dealers, fentanyl suppliers to Four Nation's top men, Devontae Q. Jones, aka Smooth, and Marius L. Russell, aka Gifted. But the violent home invasion wouldn't go as planned, and in the rush of gunfire between both sides, Crosby was shot and killed by his own friend, Jamie Smith. It was a shooting, like many, that plagued the rarely seen world of crime in one of the country's smallest and least talked about cities, a place home to competing crack dealers, waging small-scale gang feuds, and in
Competing crack dealers. You know how bad that shit sounds, bro? Boy, what the fuck?
many instances, those feuds result in innocent civilians getting gunned down. The Four Nations gang wasn't the only gang.
Wait, what happened?
Result in innocent civilians getting gunned down. The Four Nations gang wasn't the only gang using Erie's ghettos as an almost open drug market, but it was one of the most infamous among a sea of criminals, all competing for the same end goal.
Chat, what y'all think though?
I would
Like,
say
is
it's
this
like
shit
having another
crazy or
producer in
what?
the room that knows exactly what your song needs. This is co-producer. The fastest way to
And I'm only what, 2 minutes in or some shit? 3 minutes in?
Erie, Pennsylvania is one of the United States' poorest metropolitan areas, an environment that has led to a rise in crime over the years. Downtown Erie and the surrounding associating neighborhoods are considered the epicenters of crime in the area, with a violent crime rate double the state average.
Unfortunately, I live in like the west side area of it. But like, I ain't gonna lie, bro, it's not too much that be going on over here. Nothing like OD crazy, at least. So thank goodness. Hopefully it stays that way, because you know anything could happen at any time though, chat. But yeah.
And 3 times the crime per square mile of the state of Pennsylvania, despite only being home to less than 1% of the state's population. The city of Erie is home to several gangs, including the Gangster Disciples, The Five, Stack That Bread, 8.
When the fuck were there GDs in Erie? I never knew this shit. Actually, I'm glad I don't know this shit. I'm not affiliated, associated. I do not gangbang. I am a content creator. I stay in the crib, stay out the way, have my fun when I want with my friends. I'm just an average, normal, law-abiding citizen.
And Four Nation. The beef between the Five and Stack That Bread has been ongoing for years. The Five, based around East 5th and Ash Street, was a youth gang that came to conflict with Stack That Bread, based at the Harbor Homes public housing in
Holly. That's the Holly right there.
Came to conflict with Stack That Bread, based at the Harbor Home.
So the gang that was over there is called Stack That Bread. I didn't even know this because when I was there and I was younger, they just called it the Holly 1800, you know, because it's on the 18th block and shit like that. I don't know. I have mad cousins that live over in this zone. That's why I was over here all the time. All the little African parties in the basement and all that shit. Yeah, I was in these bitches, bro.
Was public
bussin'.
In 2022, that beef led to the death of a 7-year-old child, Antonio Yarger Jr., aka
Oh my god, what? Nah, rest in peace to him, man. That's so fucked up, yo. That is so fucked up.
ESPN, who was accidentally shot by 17-year-old Abdullah O. Ismail, a member of the Five. On April 14, 2022, 5 members, Abbas Al-Harbi and Yusuf M. Hassan, drove a Chevrolet on the hunt for members of Stack That Bread after a fight broke out earlier that day. At around 7:40 p.m., Yassan Ibrahim drove a stolen CR7 with Abdullah Ismail and Yusuf M. Hassan, who spotted a group of 3, Antonio among them, walking near Rajyang Park. The group of gangsters opted to shoot at someone within the group, as he was the one they'd fought with earlier. Hassan passed the Glock 43 to Ismail.
See, that's why I stay away from that park. That park always brought bad vibes. Even when I used to be over there at that pool and all that. I wonder if they closed that pool down actually, cause yeah, that's like the foreground center of bad news.
Who fired, missed, and killed the 7-year-old instead. The men were arrested a number of days later, and in November of 2024, Ismail received 60 years behind bars.
Shit, bro. Unfortunately, this is my city. You know what I'm saying? Let me pull chat back up because my phone closed out. Yeah, chat, let me know what y'all think so far. This to me is, I don't know, mind-boggling. It's crazy.
Gangs like the Five are on a much smaller scale in terms of operations, money, and connections. Four Nation was a relatively unorganized clique of crack dealers, rappers, and killers on the east side of Erie that didn't have a real gang structure, and rather was made up of power vacuums filled by whatever member could sell more drugs. Devontae Q. Jones, aka Smooth, was a rapper who became the first-ranking member of the organization, which formed around the 2010s when a series of gangs on East 24th Street and Wallace Street came together to control the east side. The formation of the East Side-based Four Nation gang and the West Side-based 1800 gang can be traced back to a shooting in a crowded venue on January 5th, 2014, when 26-year-old barber Rashid Anderson was killed. His killer, 22-year-old East Side resident Courtney Harden Pulliam, had accidentally shot him in the fallout of a fight on New Year's Eve 2013 between Pulliam and 19-year-old Daquan Henderson, Rashid Anderson's brother. Harden Pulliam knew Henderson would be at an event at the East Erie Turner Social Club on 829 Parade Street, an athletic club formed in the 1900s that had since become a ballroom venue. A private party with some 100 to 200 people in attendance was being held at the club when Harden Pulliam drove by, entered the venue, and opened fire at Henderson, causing the place to fall into a panic. He missed, injured Henderson and another man, and killed Anderson by accident. At 12:58 a.m. that same morning, someone drove by Pulliam's mother's home and opened fire at the building while Pulliam's sister called 911, telling police she didn't know who the gunman was. Her statement changed later, and she pointed the blame to 25-year-old Michael J. Noble, who she said she recognized when she saw an image of him on Facebook. Noble had received a call that same night about Anderson's shooting, which was the biggest piece of evidence used against him. Police arrested him, and he agreed to turn over his legally registered firearm and give a video statement. The time in which he received the call about his friend's death and the gun he carried a permit to use both did not line up with Pulliam's sister's testimonies. In court, Noble testified that he'd kicked her out of a New Year's Eve party for fighting with other guests less than a week before the shooting. proving a motive for her to lie. On September 19, Noble was acquitted of all charges. On the night of October 24, 2014, at around 9:45 p.m., Hardin Pulliam's cousin, 20-year-old Tash.
See, around this time, I wasn't living in the city of Erie. I was in Erie County, I believe, at this. Nah. Oh, okay. I was in the suburbs at this time. Yeah, I was in the suburbs at this time. I wasn't on the west side, east side. If I was on the west side, it was like the suburbs, west side, like the higher upper west side.
Sean D. Thrower left his aunt's home when someone opened fire on him and killed him just north of the house. Less than an hour later, shots were fired at a home on East 26th Street in retaliation, and less than 2 hours after that, 7 bullets were fired at a home on Parade Street. 40 minutes later, someone shot 20 times at a home down the road on Parade Street as well. Throughout the rest of that year, Erie's murder rate skyrocketed as conflicts formed between the East and the West Side gangs in the fallout of Anderson's shooting, leading to the solidification of Four Nation and the 1800 gang.
Chat, there's like low-key today, there's still a war going on between the East Side and the West Side. Like, as we speak, like something just happened probably almost a year ago where it was a violence beef between them like that. And it doesn't help that it's like younger kids nowadays, like I feel like I don't know. I don't want to speak too much on the situation because I don't want to be involved at all, and I don't want to like falsify something and then someone said I said something wrong. But I don't know, man. It's just crazy.
The 1800 came to light in 2017 with a bust against prominent members of the gang, Paris Xavier Boyd, Andre Javon Knight, Shardana El Goody, and her boyfriend Ravone R. Dayberry, aka Mook, Mugga Mug, and Mugga Jones. In October of 2015, the group began conspiring to make crack sales in Erie and shoot their rivals in Four Nation. All members had a history within the gang. Boyd distributed crack for a crew that he took over when the former distributor was arrested for shooting at members of Four Nation. Dayberry was in and out of the US prison system since he was 12, and in April of 2012 received a criminal trespassing charge, barring him from owning a firearm. Police wiretapped the phones of 1,800 members during the operation, overhearing Knight discussing processing cocaine into crack cocaine and watching Dayberry help distribute close to 200 grams of crack on the west side. Dayberry wasn't allowed to possess a gun, but one wiretapped phone call overheard Dayberry speaking angrily about a fight with Four Nation rivals at a county fair and then going out on the hunt for them with a 9mm handgun. On September 10, 2016, Dayberry found the men in their car driving on West 28th Street, shot at them several times, then called someone he'd originally sent out to hunt them down and told him, quote, "You see me hit the truck." In March of 2017, Dayberry released a song under the name Mugga Jones titled Same Shit, in which he throws up 1,800 West Side gang signs, and someone in the video throws up a sign prosecutors labeled as Cracking 4, meaning it was an anti-Four Nation gang sign. Dayberry was sentenced to 6 years and 8 months for crack dealing and felony gun possession in November of 2019. The Four Nation gang came from a union of several...
Wait a minute, so if that was 2019, he should be out by now. Because what, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Yeah, he should be out now. That's still crazy though.
East Side gangs, The Hood, 22nd and Cash, and Deuce 4, who united to form one organization and in the process absorbed smaller street gangs who lacked protection and drug avenues. The gang organized in an almost linear pattern, going down a long chain of members ranked from first. Devon Jones was number 1, then his second in command was DeGene Day Williams, aka Spank. In the early hours of March 8, 2015, at 12 a.m., Williams and Four Nation member Amir S. Rosenderry bust down the home of a man in East Erie and held him at gunpoint, stealing an iPhone, a watch, ATM cards, cash, and his car.
Erie police also making an arrest in an armed robbery case that led to a crash. 23-year-old Amir Rosenderry was charged after allegedly committing an armed robbery.
Just 10 days later, Rosenderry turned himself in, and Williams was arrested in Buffalo and extradited back to Erie. Then there was Javar Beeson Jr., aka J-Rock, who was the gang's top fentanyl dealer and ran a lucrative enterprise on the intersection of East 24th and Wallace, a drug enterprise that afforded him a $26,000 grill. Four Nation made the bulk of their money from meth, fent, and crack sales, and marginal amounts from theft and weapons trafficking. Their network was run through a series of phones named Lick Phones, which they used to sell drugs to customers known as licks. Phones were
Nah, hit a lick looking ass. Hey, yo, I'm finna hit this lick real quick. If you know, you know. Damn. Damn, chat. That shit crazy, mud. Hit a lick real quick. Hey, chat, do y'all be saying hitting a lick or whatever? Like when you're about to sell something or something? Do y'all be saying hitting a lick? I could be selling an iPhone, selling like something. Do you call it hitting a lick? I used to say that, like back in this time. What if they're talking about like 2015 and all that? That was like the word, like hitting a lick. I don't know what they say now. I don't know what folks say nowadays.
Shared among members in shifts so that everyone had something to do, and drugs were pooled between the gang so everyone had something to sell. In that regard, the gang was run like a legitimate corporation and was able to avoid brutal infighting. Between 2012 and 2022, Four Nation brought over $150,000 fent pills into Erie. The narcotics were purchased from dealers in California, Arizona, and even Mexico, and then trafficked to Pennsylvania, Ohio, and New York. Another notable Four Nation member was 25-year-old Ashton Pulliam Jones, who in April of 2016 got into a shootout at a house party on the city's west side that led to the death of 19-year-old Alan Basham. Pulliam Jones, Jermaine Gamble, and Basham were at the home when 1800 member Marcus Knight pulled up to the party on West 26th Street around 3 a.m. Four Nation member Alan Basham started shooting at Knight's car for unknown reasons. Knight later testified that he'd been close to Basham for years, and so were their families. The resulting shootout erupted between the home. Knight shot at Basham 3 times as he dashed for a nearby parking lot and died from a shot to the chest. Pulliam Jones took out a 9mm Glock.
I feel like I know him from Burton Park. It's a park called Burton Park. He used to hoop there all the time, and I used to hoop there all the time when I was way younger. I feel like he used to hoop there. Chat.
And fired 25 times in random directions outside the home, while Gamble shot several times towards Knight out a window. In the resulting case, Knight was acquitted of all charges when it was deemed he'd shot in self-defense. Police found Pulliam Jones's Glock on the ground with his fingerprints on it, and in March of 2017, he received 3 to 9 years in state prison. In June, police overheard him meeting with his grandfather, 70-year-old Lionel Pulliam, to pick up almost $60,000 in crack cash from a stash house on Brandis Street to deliver to a client. Police added time to Pulliam Jones's sentence, and Lionel Pulliam, a first-time non-violent offender, was granted probation under a legal program in Erie. In December of 2022, police in Erie began a phone wiretapping and GPS tracking operation on Four Nation, who had been racking in cash from crack, meth, and fentanyl sales around Erie in the neighborhood.
Okay, so I wasn't wrong. It wasn't the summer of 23. I think it was the summer of 22. I can't remember. It was either the summer of 22 or 23 when like the SWAT was all over. I swear it was 23 though.
cities on the lake. Their phones, 17 lick phones, were the essential foundation for the gang's entire business, and police began organizing their linear structure and identifying almost 40 non-gang members who worked with them. One of these 36 men was Tyler D. McGee, a meth and fent dealer who clicked with 4Nation in 2020 and across 3 years trafficked 2,000 pills in Erie. McGee was witnessed selling 109 pills to Marius L. Russell, aka Gifted, the 8th member in the 4Nation hierarchy, and to Chicoyo A. Bayeti, the gang's 13th member. Bayeti was the brother of Shanti Israel Bayeti, who in 2011 lost his life in a drug robbery gone wrong, and the uncle to Naeem Jaheis Bayeti, who was murdered by rivals in 2023. Shanti's death took place on November 21st, 2011 at 2 a.m. when he and his brother Jeremiah Bayeti broke into the home of Erie drug dealer Jordan Tracy. The two had worked with Tracy in the past and knew he had a safe with $3,000. Inside the house was Tracy, his brother Jared, and Corinne Carson, but Jared fled the home as the robbery took place. Then, when the two brothers were outside, he shot and killed Shanti with one shot to the head, causing Jeremiah to kneel by his brother and take his mask off. Jordan instantly recognized him and yelled, quote, "I know who you are," causing Jeremiah to take off, but he was arrested within minutes. Naeem Bayeti was shot and killed on the morning of March 18, 2023, when he bumped into Torrance A. Norris at a speed check gas station. The two got into an argument before leaving, and later that same day, Norris drove by East 21st Street, parked and hid in an alleyway between two homes. Bayeti drove by, and Norris shot his car several times until Bayeti died, rolled forward, and hit a tree with his car. Police observed Norris running to the home of a friend and changing his clothes. That friend would later testify against him. Police in Erie also connected McGee to two shootings. On March 18, 2023, he opened fire on a man on the east side, but no one was injured in the shooting. On the early morning of April 23, two women got
Chat. When this happened, I was at the bar right next door with my folks. All we heard was a boom! Glass shatter. It was the club next door. Never knew what happened, but I can't believe like it was connected to this. And like nobody was allowed in or out of the bar. Nobody was allowed like to leave, all that, bro. Everyone was like kind of ducking under cover and shit, bro. It was the craziest shit ever, bro. I remember this shit.
To a fight.
Yup.
At the Super Chicken Lounge in Central Erie, with McGee involved in some way. As the fight went outside, McGee
That club is now closed and under renovation, by the way.
Shot one of the women, hit her in the leg, and she limped away and was driven.
See that big M right there? That's another bar. That's the bar I was at that night that this shit happened. I was at this bar right next door, bro. This shit be crazy, mud.
To UPMC Hammett. Following the shooting, his sister Essence McGee picked him up and drove him to Buffalo, New York to hide from police. In June of 2023,
Crazy.
Essence McGee was arrested for shooting a woman outside the Captain John E. Lamp Marina at around 2 a.m. one Saturday morning. She'd gotten into a fight with another woman, and in her attempt to shoot her rival, accidentally shot a bystander who was trying to intervene and break up the fight. The victim survived the shooting.
First gunshot victim was reported on McClellan Avenue shortly after midnight. According to reports from the scene, the first victim was found outside in the 3800 block of McClellan Avenue. A short time later, a second gunshot victim arrived at St. Vincent Hospital. According to the officer in charge, one of the victims was pronounced dead at UPMC Hammett. There's no word on a suspect at this time.
Another shooting police named the gang being a part of took place on the 3900th block of McClelland Avenue in Southeast Erie between 5 4Nation members, Derek Wright, Marcia S. Jones, Julia D. Gartner, Shannon Crosby, and Jamie D. Smith, and 4 dealers from Arizona.
Time out. I'm tripping, or did they not explain this already earlier in the video? I don't know. I'm gonna just keep watching.
Cortez Murray, Saul Felix, Abner L. Gonzalez, and DeAndre E. Keomani Smith. The 4 dealers were staying at a rental home on 3904 McClelland Avenue, bringing fent up from Arizona to sell to Devontae Jones and Marius Russell.
An Erie man is facing a first-degree murder charge in a fatal shooting that killed a teenager. Investigators say 20-year-old Jamie Smith Jr. fired shots into a Westside duplex in July of 2021, killing 18-year-old Calvain Davis.
Smith, despite being only 19 at the time, was a career gangster. Back on July 1st, 2021, Smith and 2 others walked to an apartment shared by Calvin Davis Jr. on West 29th Street and opened fire on the window of the bedroom, spraying the apartment building over 24 times and killing Davis, just 18 years old at the time. Davis, however, wasn't Smith's target, but rather someone else sharing the building. Police would find Smith's gun the following day when performing a routine traffic stop on Samuel Muffet, who one of Smith's relatives had tasked with hiding the gun, but instead kept it for himself. The 4 Arizona men had brought some $30,000 in fentanyl with them, and Smith and 30-year-old Shannon Crosby planned to rob the home and make off with the drugs. On the midnight of January 26, 2022, the 4 Arizona men returned to the home to get high when 4 of the gangsters sprung on the home, with Gartner waiting as the getaway driver. Shots went back and forth as the robbers fled, and in the crossfire, Cortez was injured and Crosby was shot dead by Smith. Jones was also left in the snow as the robbers fled, causing him to run in another direction and discard his gloves. In December of 2022, Erie police charged Smith, Wright, Gartner, and Jones with the robbery and with Crosby's death. Police also caught and arrested the 4 Arizona dealers for drug offenses and began an investigation on 4 Nation's involvement after finding Jones's glove. Wright was tried in January of 2024 when Marcia Jones, Julia Gartner, and the Arizona drug dealers testified against him and Smith. Wright was acquitted of murder and charged with assault. Smith, however, wasn't so lucky, and in early 2025, he received 30 to 60 years for killing Crosby and 4 to 8 years for killing Calvin Davis Jr., meaning that he will be eligible for parole starting at the age of 55.
Damn.
The FBI is asking for the public's help in locating 3 men wanted in connection with the arrests announced in June of the 4 Nation gang. According to prosecutors, 4 Nation operates on Erie's east side. The men are part of 58 defendants that have been charged with violating federal racketeering, narcotics, and firearm laws.
Sheer amount of narcotics that didn't hit the street as a great result of the teamwork in this case is staggering.
Those involved with the investigation hope the case sends a message.
And the public should know that we'll continue to work with all of our partners to investigate, identify, and hold accountable those who deal death and devastate our families.
As for 4 Nation, namely Devontae Jones, Erie police would lead a swooping raid against the gang on the early morning of Thursday, June 8, 2020.
Knew it. I knew it, chat. I knew it. Summer 2023. That's when this shit happened. Knew it. I knew it was the summer of 2023. Yeah. It was all over Facebook, all over Snapchat, all over everywhere, bro. This shit was crazy.
At around 4:50 a.m., 31 people out of a 58-person indictment were arrested that day, and several defendants weren't found. That included Dejon Williams, Lamont D. Warren Jr., aka Mont G, and Desarion J. Hinton, aka Bobby. Williams had been wanted since April 20, 2022, when police in Erie raided drug homes on 1055 Rankin Avenue and 2020 A3 East 10th Street, where they found 2.6 pounds of fent, $19,000 in cash, and 6 cell phones. Of the 58 indictments, 22 of them were official members of Four Nation, while 36 were associates who were charged for crimes between August of 2021 and June of 2023. It was the largest indictment in ERIE history. Devontae Jones, then 29, was charged.
Literally, it was the talk of the town for the next few months after this happened. It was crazy.
As being the ringleader of the entire enterprise. Police found him in Tampa, Florida, where he'd been living for 4 months, and had him extradited to Pennsylvania to appear in an ERIE federal court. By Friday morning, 47 of the 58 defendants were in police custody, 10 of which were released later. Jones stood trial to hear his sentence on October 10, 2025, and told the court, friends, and family that he was sorry for being a criminal and pledged to the judge that in prison he'd study culinary arts and work hard to get back to his wife and 2 children. Devontae Q. Jones received 13 years in prison and 5 years of subsequent supervised release.
Damn. This is dead ass crazy. So this is what the fuck happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, bro. That's why I don't be trying to be over that way, over anywhere, bro. I just try to stay out the way. I get up out of places before shit get hectic, bro. Cause listen, bro, shit is not worth losing your life, bro. If you got something to live for, shit is not worth losing your life, bro. You got a family at home that care about you. You know what I'm saying? Chat. If any of y'all out there got kids, you got kids that love you, that you know what I'm saying, that you got to take care of. You know, like, bro, everyone has worth. Everyone has something to live for, chat. So just my advice, just stay out of trouble, man, and live life to the fullest. You know what I'm saying? That's all I gotta say. You know what I'm saying, chat.